Now, phrases and clauses. What is a phrase? What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words. It is a group of words that make sense but not complete sense. It has a sense but not complete sense as a sentence has. A sentence is a group of words which makes sense, complete sense. But a phrase is a group of words that make sense but not complete sense. A phrase may consist of one word or more than one word. Now, for example, reading comics. This is a phrase. It makes sense but not complete sense. Was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. This is a phrase. So, the words in bold, for example, reading comics with a silver spoon, these are words, these are phrases. They make sense but not complete sense. Now, there are three kinds of phrases. These are important kinds of phrases. First is noun phrase. It acts as a noun. Children love to fly kites. To fly kites. That is a noun phrase. I did not watch my favorite serial. What is my favorite serial? It makes sense but not complete sense. Flattering people is a bad habit. Flattering people is the noun phrase. Now it acts as a noun. Adjective phrase, it acts as an adjective. It does the work of an adjective. What are adjectives? Adjectives are describing words. They describe a verb, adjective. These describe a noun. Adjectives describe a noun. She had a highly successful career. Highly successful. Now that man wearing a brown suit. Which type of suit? Brown suit is the bridegroom. My father is a man of few words. Of few words. These are phrases, adjective phrases. Now, adverb phrase, it acts as an adverb. He acted in a tactful manner. What type of manner? How? Tactful manner. It is an adverb phrase. Not long ago. When? Not long ago. It tells when. I visit him now and then. It also tells time. So, these are adverb phrases. Now you have to do exercise. Say whether the underlined phrases are noun, adjective or adverb. Read them carefully and see what they are acting. Are they acting as a noun? So they are noun phrases. If they act as an adjective, they are adjective phrase. And if they act as an adverb, they are adverb phrase. Now, defining a clause. What is a clause? As phrase is a group of words that make sense but not complete sense, and it doesn't have a subject and a verb. But in a clause is a group of words that forms a part of sentence and has a subject and a verb of its own. There's a difference. Phrase is also a group of words and clause is also a group of words. Phrase has meaning but not complete meaning, and this has clause has a subject and a verb. Okay, and it also conveys, sometimes it conveys the full meaning, sometimes it doesn't. Now, a clause is a group of words that forms part of a sentence and has a subject and a finite verb of its own. A clause has only one finite verb in it. For example, this one. Some students are sitting on the last bench. On the last bench is the phrase. All the students who are sitting on the last bench came late. This is clause. All the students who are sitting on the last bench came late. This is a sentence. Now, some students are sitting on the last bench. Clause as well as sentence. Now, phrase, clause and sentence. What is the difference between them? In phrase, no verb is there and it cannot stand on its own. It cannot make sense on its own. Clause, only one verb is there, may or may not be able to stand on its own. And sentence has one verb and can always stand on its own, means it makes sense by itself. A sentence is a group of words which makes sense, which has got a subject and a predicate. Now, if a clause cannot stand on its own, it is part of a sentence. If a clause can stand on its own, it is also a sentence. And there are two main types of clauses: main and subordinate clause. A clause that can stand on its own is called main or principal clause, or it is also known as independent clause. What is it known as? Independent clause. Which is independent, which has clear meaning of its own. It doesn't require any other clause to complete the meaning. And a clause that cannot stand on its own is called subordinate clause. Subordinate clause or dependent clause. This dependent on the other clause. If the other clause, principal clause is there and subordinate clause is there, then it makes sense. And when main or principal clause makes the sense by itself. Now example, our body gets its energy from food. This sentence has one subject, our body, and one verb, gets. It also conveys complete meaning and can stand on its own, so it is main or principal clause or independent clause. What is this? It has one subject, our body, and one verb, gets. So our body gets its energy from food. It makes sense and it conveys complete meaning and it can stand on its own. So it is main clause, principal clause, or independent clause. Now, second example, the body breaks down the food that we eat to produce energy. This sentence consists of two clauses. First one is the body breaks down the food to produce energy, can stand on its own, hence principal clause. And that we eat cannot stand on its own, so it is called subordinate clause. Now noun clause. A subordinate clause that acts as a noun in a sentence is called a noun clause. Okay, and dependent clause which is dependent, it acts as a noun, is called a noun clause. Nobody believed that she had committed any crime. That she had committed any crime is a subordinate clause or a dependent clause. The teacher asked me if I had any problems. What did the teacher ask? If I had any problems. Give him what he wants. What he wants is the dependent clause. The clauses printed in bold are all noun clauses. Noun clauses usually introduced by what is there, how we can come to know? If there is that, if, whether, or WH question words like what, who, when, where, when, then it is noun clause. What is it? If there is that she had committed and so any crime, if I had any problems, what, or who, where, when. So they are noun clauses. Okay. And adjective clauses, a subordinate clause that acts as an adjective in a sentence is called an adjective clause. A dependent clause that acts as an adjective in a sentence is called an adjective clause. And adjective clauses are also known as relative clauses. They show the relation. Never speak an unkind word that might hurt others. That might hurt others. The nation should feel grateful to all those who had laid their lives for her. All the poems which he recited at the meeting. The words in bold are adjective or relative clauses. Gone are the childhood days when we played for hours without any tension. I have read almost all the books you see on my shelf. So clauses printed in bold are all adjective clauses. What are they? They serve the purpose of an adjective. Adjective clauses are usually introduced by relative pronouns. For example, who, whose, whom, which, that. Relative adverbs when and where. These are also there when they are in the sentences. Sometimes relative pronoun adverb is omitted and sometimes there is no verb also you see on my shelf in the last sentence. Now adverb clauses. A subordinate clause that performs the function of an adverb in a sentence is called an adverb clause. What is that? A dependent clause that performs the action of an adverb is called an adverb clause. For example, until he reached the main building. Manan kept walking until he reached the main crossing. It is useless to argue since the decision has already been taken. Since the decision has already been taken. He looked for a good hotel so that he could spend the night comfortably. The clauses printed in bold are all adverb clauses. Until he reached the main crossing, since the decision, and so that he could spend the night comfortably. Now, adverb clauses are introduced by. How do we know that it is an adverb clause? They'll have this in the beginning. When, while, before, after, since, as soon as. They show the time. When, while, before. Where, wherever. They show the place. Because, as, since. They show the reason. So that, to show the effect, result, consequence, the result of that. So that, to show purpose, that he went to he walked fast so that he could reach the station on time to catch the train. So it is the purpose, he had to catch the train, so that is the purpose. If, unless, provided that, to show condition. You won't pass unless you work hard, it shows condition. Although, even though, to show contrast, there is a contrast. As if, to show manner. Then, as dash, so as, to show comparison. So exercise, you have to do exercise 2 and 3.